Good morning, traders. Welcome to our daily webinar. Anyone here has joined us for the first time? Give me a yes if you have. So I'll give you a quick rundown and then I'll go from there because I want to start from a little higher point, right? Yes, one person so far only. Two. Any more person first time? Two of you. Okay. So I'll go through very quick. Give me 5 minutes what we do. What we do is called wave analysis. It's mostly based on something I created, based on everything that you've learned before, based on that is Elliott wave and Dow theory and all of that. It's a simple thing. It means that the market does not move in a straight line, it moves in waves. It's mostly studying what you call market structure, right? So for those of you who were here even previously and have seen what we do, what I'm going to show you now might still be very interesting. So you have to think of the market as, like anything else, never moves in a straight line. Right, so any point in time, market makes one pattern. Only one pattern. The market is always in a single pattern phase. Always. So if you take a yearly chart, for example, this is your yearly chart. We are making a single pattern. Whatever is happening in the entire structure, it's trying to create a single pattern, which means market moves in a certain way that will within a range. And that range will give you a single pattern at any given time. This is a yearly chart. This is the most I can find. I actually Googled it this morning to find the longest possible history I can find of the dollar index. And there is none more than this. Macro wave, I think macro charts or macro wave or macro charts. Macro charts give you something like this. And there's another one I found, trend something, it gives you about 43 years. So you don't, if you guys can find one with more information for me, that would be great. So what we have here is a move up and a move down. That's confirmed. I don't know whether this came from the top or whether it came from the bottom. It is very important to know that, but I don't know that. Now, what I would do is start with what I have. So let's take this single move down, right? We would assume that this comes from the top or from the bottom, and we work with both variations. What is going to happen is that if it came from the top, it means this was an impulse up, this is an impulse down. At some point, this will be the correction, right? Either the correction is over here and we're trying to go back to the top there, then we're going to come back here, and that will be a single pattern. And let me draw the single pattern, what it should look like to you. And this is the pattern you will see in a 1 minute. An impulse, a correction, and an impulse. See, let me repeat it. An impulse, a correction, and an impulse. That's the single pattern you're going to see everywhere. I'll show you that step by step. Then if it came from the bottom, let's say it came from the bottom here, this would be your impulse. That would be your single impulse. We're still in the correction, and we will get an impulse up, not down. This would be your correction with an impulse up. It will still be the same thing, an impulse, a correction, and an impulse. So the question is, where would the market go next? Would it go up or would it go down? And since we don't know what was in the past, can we restructure the future to show us which one, or to know what is possibly going to happen? And yes, we can do that. It's very simple. Because remember, I said on every time frame, you will get an impulse, a correction, and an impulse. So the market broke the low. And if we assume that this was 1, 2, 3, what should have happened is you should have got a sharp reversal here, a flag, and then continue to go up. And then we would assume that this came from the bottom, right? Could it still do that? Well, let's suppose this was the impulse, but it's really slow. It's the slowest movement on the entire chart. If you look at this, this was sharp, this was sharp, this was a little slow, but this is even slower than that. Normally, the slow movements are corrective structures. But in rare situation, you'll find that the slow movements are actually the slow start of a first impulse. So if it is that, what is going to happen here is this will start to make a correction like this or like this, not breaking the low. And then it's going to go back up like this. So if we see this move, this correction will have to start with an impulse down. So if we see this impulse down, not breaking the low, but stopping short here and going back up, way back to the top, we're going to make the assumption that this is making a move for a big impulse to the upside. And we will make the assumption that this was all the correction. And this probably came from bottom, right? If we see this dropping really sharp and just making small corrections and drop and small corrections drop, breaking this low, not necessarily here, maybe just breaking the low slightly here, we're going to assume that this is finished and this is going to go up. That's big picture, but this is the same analysis you're going to find on any given time frame. That's how it works, right? Because and it's very simple. Common sense will tell you nothing can go up forever or nothing can come down forever. So everything that comes down has to go back up to a certain point, even if it's going to continue to go down. Everything that goes up has to pull back to a certain point, even if it's going to go back up. That's simple, very simple common sense. But since most times we're dealing with price and time, what we find is that the impulses, what we call impulses, are something that moves in terms of price. What we call corrections are something that moves in time, which means it's very flat, it's very slow, but it moves with time. You know this, it stays within the impulse, but it's a time factor. And this you will find again on any given time. Now, depending on the range, you can trade that from the 5 minutes way down to the daily, depending on your time availability and the range you can trade, right? What range, what skill levels you have to trade, and the range you can trade. If the range is too small, then you shouldn't be trading it. If the range is enough to give you profit with a stop that is going to give you at least 1 to 1, 2 to 1, then that is worth it. If you can get it within the range, you're not going to take it. That is the analysis. That's the nutshell of the analysis we do. Now, since this is almost a fact, because there is nothing disproving that you move up and down, right? There's nothing disproving. We call it wave analysis simply because we looked at it this way: up, come down, go back up, come back down, go back up. That's all. That's why it's called wave analysis. Very simple. You can call it whatever you want, but that's why I call it wave analysis. Seems like a lot of waivers are in tongue right now. I have seen some very seasonal waivers become wave analysis traders because you looked at the chart in terms of waves. You're not determining that the chart has to make this pattern or that pattern, right? We don't determine the patterns. We don't determine the size of the impulses. We just follow them. You wait for your setup and you take the trade. So if you're making a forecast for upside, you have to have confirmation for that. If you don't have the confirmation, then you're probably wrong in the way you look at the forecast, right? Or this is one of the 10% of patterns that don't behave exactly the same way like all that you've seen previously, right? Because 10% of them will vary. And even to the patterns, there are slight variations. All of this stuff we will teach you when you join us, right? If you do. So let's go back to this now. What we would look for here today is we'll go back to the daily. I'm going to show you what we do. We trade in ranges. We trade at any given time, you're trading in a pattern. You're looking for an impulse. So it doesn't matter what time frame you trade. You first have to get an impulse, wait for a correction, and then you're trying to get this impulse. You can never get the first impulse. It doesn't matter what, a 1 hour or 4 hour or 15 minutes, you're not going to get the first impulse because the first impulse is a reversal of the previous move. So the previous move was up, the first impulse is a reversal, you get your correction, and then you go for the next one. It looks simple, right? It looks very simple here. But because of the fractal nature of the market, you have to know not only the pattern you're in right now in this given one, but you have to know what bigger pattern you're in. So your ability to identify that pattern as clear as possible on the 4 hour, on the 1 hour, and then on the time trade if you trade in the 15, and also the distance it can go. Where would that pattern complete itself? So if you get a pattern wrong, you wouldn't get a confirmation or you wouldn't get a trade. If you get the pattern right, the chances are you're going to get a very good trade. So when you see where the bigger pattern is going to complete itself, you can say, well, okay, if I put a stop here and an entry here, because I have this set up, it will give me 2 to 1 by the time it completes this pattern. That's a trade I can take, right? It's that simple. So first you learn to identify patterns. You learn to wait for the setups, implement it, and then the next part is managing the trade. So what if this is one of the patterns that doesn't go? What do you do? And that is where you would have to make that decision, right? Should I exit this trade and wait for, either it goes, I will re-enter, or it doesn't go, and good, I'm not in that trade. That is the part that is most important in trading. It's not about clicking a trade. It's not even about identifying the patterns correctly. Those are just to give you sense of direction analysis. Afterwards, managing the trades you're in is the most important thing you would have to do. And that is something we do here at least 5 times a day. So this is the second session for the day we're doing. Right? We did one early this morning, about an hour ago. 2 hours ago it started. It finished an hour ago. We're doing this one. We're going to do one more after this, and then we will do the New York session. And then after the New York session, we have another session. Most of my traders senior traders help run those sessions. I'm only running one, or I'm doing 2 at least, and sometimes 3 or 4. Right? So basically, or I will join them most times. So basically what we're looking for now is we're going to go to the 1 hour chart and we're going to identify trade. You're going to see a lot of colors here. All these colors mean something. It means what stage of trade we're in. We're in an aggressive trade, which means a 15-minute trade. We're in a standard 1 hour trade. We're looking for a setup, a sell setup, a buy setup, or we are looking for a trade both ways. Or basically, if you don't see anything, it means we don't have a setup on that pair as yet. And these change during the day, depending on how we manage the trade. Right? So you can see that this morning we've already put those on. As we go along, if you join us every day for the week, you will probably understand what those colors mean and which color we're using for what. So let's go. This is the dollar index. Remember what I showed you. I'll go back very quick and show you. In the weekly, we're top of the structure, which means we have completed an impulse up. We have completed a correction. We've completed another impulse up. And we've completed a correction. Now, those of you who follow me for more than a year, you would know we forecast that, right? You will know why we forecast that also, right? There's a good reason. Remember, it's at the top here, and somebody is telling you, you know what, dollar index is going to come back here. I'm pretty sure a lot of people who follow news and follow all that stuff is going to tell you that's crazy, but it happened. You are actually witness to the fact that we made that forecast and it happened. You're also witness to the fact that we said this one is going to go back and break this top, which it did. So we can't guess that. I mean, you can guess once, you can't guess twice. So I'm telling you now, there's a high probability that this is going to stop at some point. Now, you don't have to know where it stopped. You're always looking for a sell setup every time you break the top. So every time we get a sell setup, we're going to take a sell. That might not be the one that go. We actually took about, from the time we broke that up, we actually took about 3 or 4 sell setups that didn't go. That's okay. We got out for them for small profit or break even. The worst case is you get a very small loss. But the one that goes is the one that is going to really make you the big moves and the big money, right? So what you're looking for now is the turning point, which means there will be a turning point. And 2 things are going to happen. You're going to get an impulse down. It will start to correct in a range to continue up, which this range is going to be really huge, bigger than this and bigger than this. Or it is going to totally drop. Now, we can't say which one, because I just explained that, because we don't have the bigger picture. So we're making assumptions that both sides is possible because we don't have the bigger picture. If we had the bigger picture, I probably would be more precise in which direction is higher probable. Now both of them are like 50%, since we don't know what was in the past. It doesn't matter. This move alone would be enough to probably double your account if you're trading all the other pairs in a dollar movement like that, if you get it right. See, it's pretty simple. And we can match this with equal setups on the daily and the weekly on many, many of the major charts, including gold, silver, yen. At least those I can tell you about. Pound, euro also has similar structures, right? Euro also broke the low on the weekly and the monthly, which means the yearly, which means at some point it's going to go back up, right? So this is where you can make money. And that is why I think this webinar today is so important. Because this is where we're telling you that there is going to be a very sharp impulse you don't want to miss. And if you want to have updates twice daily, you should join us. If you join our group, either join the group full, or you can join the group as an installment member, which means you get twice daily recordings. I will try to bring that live, and we're still working on that, which means you will get to access the group twice daily live with us, right? And you will get the trade setups we're showing you, with follow-up on them, what happens to them, because none of these go away. We always give follow-up as to what we did with that trade. What actually happened to the trade? Did it trigger? If it triggered, was it a profitable trade? Was it a break-even trade? Was it a loss? So you would have those follow-up to go with you. We have members in here who are, I definitely see a lot of you here who are in the subscription thing. And if you're here, it means you're enjoying it. right? And there are a lot of installment members who already are in the group. So let's go. Let's start 1 hour. We're going on a 1 hour, and I would first run through these trades that we're in. That's what we normally do when we come back. So daily, the first recording daily is where you get everything, where we record the entire daily webinar. And after that, we have sessions where we will just update on the trades we already looked at. And after that, we will look for more possible trades. So after that, my traders will tell me, can you look at this pair? Can you look at that pair? So what we're going to do is the way we normally work in our trading room. I'm going to run through all the trades we identified this morning, where they are, what stage. Then we're going to run through all trade setups. My traders are here. They're going to tell me what pairs to look at. And after that, we'll take some questions, right? Let's go. So dollar index, we assume that it's at the top. We're not doing anything. We're not buying it at the top. If it makes a good correction, a deep correction, we're going to buy. So if it pulls back like this, we'll consider a buy. If it drops and it make a flag, we will absolutely sell. So those are the two. Consider buy, absolute sell. On the silver, we decided we might get a short-term trade. When you see it in orange, that's an aggressive trade. It means that trade is in a lower time frame and it's aggressive. You have to manage it very, very carefully because it might not break this low. I'm not going to go into all that details because that is going to be really, really long webinar. So we're assuming two things. It can come here and go back up, or it can drop like this. If it comes here and go back up, our job is to manage this trade to a break even or a very small loss right within this range here. If it goes through there, that's your profit. That's a profitable trade. Both of those are possible at the moment, right? We're not going to go through again. Like I said, we're not going to go through all the details because you have to go through all the structures and everything. That's what take me very long. Silver, also a sell. This one is very simple. I think most of you who follow me would know that this looks like a running flat, which means there's a good chance this could drop and break this low. That's a trade. If it comes here and it starts to go back up, we'll try to get break even. We would change the view and we would look for a buy. Not only would we take break even, we would change the view, look for a buy. Now, silver didn't break the low on the daily. Gold didn't break the low on the daily. Silver already did. Gold doesn't have to break the low. It can go right back to the top without breaking the low. So on the daily, gold looks like this. And remember what I said, you will have a sharp move up. Let's put it in the weekly so you can see that. You're going to have a sharp move up, right? This was the big move. You actually came down, you went back up there, you're pretty much close to that top. But even if you're looking at this piece, this is the sharp move up. You're 1, 2, 3. I have a very strong belief we're going to break that top again before we come back. So if dollar index is actually to drop, this move will happen. And then we're going to come down back. So if not, then this is going to continue to go down. Now, the only sell we're looking for is on the 1 hour. We don't trade the entire range like that. We trade the 1 hour. And the 1 hour means this would just come and break this low or maybe break this low before we go back up. So that is a very short-term sell. I'm not making a trade call for, especially if you're not in my group. I'm just showing you trades we are taking in our group and how we take them and why we take them and how they work, right? So don't take this as a trade call for anything. This is just as for educational purpose for you. Let's go. We identified as we're waiting for a flag to form here. We don't have a trade. We were expecting pound to break this low. Eventually, I'll show you all of them in the daily within the week. We don't have time to show that. So we're waiting for this to make a consolidation here, and then we're going to be selling it. Just like we sold this, and we sold this, and we sold that, and we sold that. We'll be selling this to come and break this low. How low it go after it breaks the low will be your luck. Mostly that's the trade we'll be looking for. After that, it will either make a correction or it can totally reverse. Aussie, I think we have a running flat there already. We can put this one like this. It might be making a bigger correction, or it might just drop from here. So I think we have a flat here already. We don't have to go anywhere more. We're looking at this as a possible running flat. So there's a good chance we're dropping to break this low. Aussie will break that low. Let me put it in daily. Aussie will break that low before it goes back up. The question is whether now it's going to drop and break it or whether they'll make a deeper pullback. I don't think we're expecting a deeper pullback. I expect it to drop now, start going. So we'll see. Basically, Aussie is doing this. And this is very good. You see this sharp move here? And you see this one coming down like this? Eventually goes out that way. Remember, dollar index has to drop. So there's a good chance this, at any point, at any given point in this movement, it can go back up. We already have a complete pattern. right? Well, I use the word, stress on the word a complete pattern, because it could be many smaller versions of patterns or a more complex pattern. We have a simple pattern in this already. That pattern could become much more complex. So if it's going to make a much more complex pattern in here, it will probably go down more and then go up. But at any given point, we're looking for a buy. Now, what we're looking for is a sell, because we have to come and break this low. So the assumption is when it breaks this low, it will come back here, and from there totally outside, or it's going to come back here, break this low again, and then go out. So we will see which of that one actually happened. Now, we're not going to go through how we think this pattern is developing. There are many versions of how you can look at it. And that's the thing about the way we look at wave analysis, is that we look at all the possibilities of patterns that exist. And sometimes you might have more than one possibility combining the waves to make patterns, because there are a number of variations of patterns. And one of them might be completed, one of them might be incomplete, which means a more complex one. If it's making a more complex one, no problem. As long as you have the knowledge that it's possible, what you would wait for is confirmation that it's making one or the other, and then you trade. So our trade is to come and break this low, go back on the 1 hour. That's a trade. We were already selling it from the top here going down from here, right? You can start to see the sells going down to break the low. Well, it's coming down really nice. Let's see what happens here. I like this trade. We're putting that as a sell setup. We'll go with that. Yen, this is an aggressive sell. Now, I don't know that the yen will start to drop from here, but remember, we forecast the upside for you. So there's a good chance that it doesn't drop from here. It actually, well, it came down a little more. If you're tagged in it, don't worry. Your stop should be here. The stop is there. It's very likely now that this will be a flat. For my trade, it's very likely that this will become a flat, go back up, and then drop, right? You can see we are already at the top. So there's a likely this will become a flat. If you're tagged, go for the break even. Very likely we'll get a flat there, and then we'll make a bigger one here. We'll just come here and go back up. So yen might make a new high, we'll see, depending on how low it goes. But you'll use this for a break even, because like I said, the higher they go, the higher the probabilities this will be. So for us, now we are looking at a possibility to close. If you're tagged, I don't know if anybody's tagged. Any one of you guys tagged in the trade? Anybody got tagged? We assume that that could happen. Okay. Can't hear you. Somebody said they can't hear me. Let me just, Vic, can you just give them an update that it's on their side? I think somebody just sent a message that they can't hear. Just tell them it's on their side, actually. Because everybody else can hear me, right? So let's go. So this one, right now, we will be managing this trade to exit it if you're tagged. None of my traders wrote that they were tagged. So it probably didn't come to where we have it. We had it under this low, so it probably didn't come there, didn't tag you under that low. It's going up. We will still put the sell here if you want it now. Now, I don't think the sell is a good one. It will probably, as long as we haven't broken the top, we can assume it's going to come to break the low. So it will be something like this and then up. So if you guys still want to give it a try, it's still possible, right? But that will be very, very, very risky now, right? So if none of my traders are in the trade, what we will do is we'll take it off. We'll wait for this to come here. We'll wait for it to go back up, and then we'll decide if we still have a very good trade for a sell, right? You might have to send him a direct message. Anyway, you'll figure it out. So let's go. Yeah. Swiss. We have a sell on Swiss. We kept it here. Now we're going to move the sell on Swiss. It did what we wanted. You see the reason we didn't put it here this morning is because the chart was here and we knew it was going to come here and it was going to go back up to break this top. It did that now. So now you can move the entry to this level. All right, now we can move our entry. For our traders, you can move the entry. And this is what we are expecting this to do, is come here and go back up. All right, come here, go back up, come back down, and then go. We're expecting a big corrective structure here. So your question may be, how the hell do you know it's going to come here and then go back there and then come here? What make you, decide that that could happen? Like, that's like a wild guess. Honestly, if you don't know anything about wave analysis, you would say that's a wild guess. I would have probably said that's a wild guess if you didn't know, but let me show you one before, previous to that. So you had a move down, you got a 1, 2, 3 up, we didn't break the top. See that? Didn't break the top. It didn't, we tested, it didn't break the top. So take my word for that. It didn't, you can put a line, you'd see it didn't break the top. What happened when you don't break the top? You come down, you go back up, you actually this one drop here, make a more complex flat. This became something more like a flat of its own. This becomes another flat of its own, drop, break the low, then go back up, right? This one is slightly different in this variation because both of these waves are sharp. See, this one had a downside here. This one doesn't get it. So this one is making 1, 2, 3, come back to this level, complete this flat, go back up there, come here, and then go. So all it's going to do is make a bigger correction, pretty much like this. I can show you that on the higher time frame, which is on the 4 hours. You can see that, see? So on the 4 hours, you kind of go up, you make a big correction here, you go up, you make a bigger correction here, and then you go back up. So we were anticipating that this would make a big correction and go back up. So the question is whether we're going to look at this as the flat in the middle here for 1, 2, 3, and this one will go break the top. Or is it just going to break this top, drop here? If it does that, then we will take this as the running flat. And it means we're going to be in a much bigger correction here. Or this could drop all the way to the bottom. This could drop from here all the way to the bottom here. It depends on whether the dollar index starts to go down now, whether we see that big drop starts to happen. Right now, this could be a big correction or it could be a big flat for downside. That possibility exists. We're going to go with the buy. So first you want to sell. It's a short-term trade. It's still valid. The yen will still come down. It just would be a more, more riskier trade than this one. So we want this trade down here. If this goes back to the top here, we'll take off it. We wouldn't be selling it anymore. So if this goes back all the way to the top here, we would take off the sell. We'll wait for it to come here and we'll look for a buy setup. Right? This would come here, come back here, and then we'd look for a buy setup. It would be a buy, just like this bigger one was a buy. You would be buying it somewhere from the bottom here or somewhere here, wherever you get the flag. Euro yen, we're waiting for a flag to sell. We don't have a flag. We can actually put a sell entry here. So two things are going to happen right now for those traders looking at it, especially those traders for the first time. This is what we have. We're looking at this as a possible corrective structure, right? So I'm expecting this to come back here and then go back up or drop through, depending on whether you think this is the flat or whether you think this is a running flat, right? So if this is 1, 2, 3, and this is 1, 2, 3, then we will go back up. After you come here, likely they drop, right? If it is not that, if this is a contracting flat, and if you know me, I don't like to put contracting flats. So if this is a contracting flat, then this is a 1, 2, 3, and after that, this likely come down. But that is analysis, right? Analysis is not a trade. So it's very simple. What is the trade? The trade is simple. If this has to come down, either then it goes back up or then it breaks through. So go with the sell. Do we have a sell setup? We had sell setups earlier if you were trading it, but now we don't have one. Now we'll make an assumption that this is a running flat, put an entry for the sell, put a stop here, and then we're waiting for that trade here. For my traders, we're going with the sell. Change it from a flag to a sell. So that changed from waiting for a flag to getting the sell setup. So why we didn't sell it this morning? Because we knew this was going to come here and we wanted to go back up like this. And we said, if we get this, then we put it here. Simple. If this, then that. See how simple it becomes? If it gives us that up move, we're going to put an entry here and we'll put a stop here and we'll wait for the trade. Now, is that trade going to go? Who knows? You don't have to know that. If you understand patterns, 90% of these patterns work. So when you put a sell setup here, two things two ways the trade can go. It can go up or it can go down. Basically, in any given time, the chart is in 3 phases, right? It's always in 2 phases, but 1 phase we call sideways simply because it's small. So it's either going up, it's either going down, or it's going sideways. And when I say sideways, I mean really small sideways. I don't mean the big sideways that you can trade in, right? So I mean sideways like this, right? So if I had a sell here and it goes sideways, I'll change the sell to buy. See? So if I have a sell here and this goes sideways, that changed my sell into a buy. But if it drops, that's the trade I'm looking for. If it go up, I'm not in the trade. And that is the advantage of using these precise patterns. Because if you understand the patterns, you know what the pattern should look like. And you said, well, okay, if it's making this pattern, what is the next move? If this is a running flat, what should happen next? Next should happen this. It should drop like that. Now, do I think on the bigger time frame it should drop? Remember what my first analysis was? What is the bigger structure telling me? The bigger structure telling me, yeah, there's a very good chance of it coming here. And then from this point, if I'm right about a contracting flat, we go straight through. If it is a running flat, then it's go back up. Well, this could give me enough to take profit or to move to break even. See how simple it is? You keep it that way. So the trade setup here is a sell, and we go on. Euro New Zealand. What is the trade in the Euro New Zealand? Same thing. Go back up. Give us a, you see, we are waiting for a sell setup. Go back up like this one. Make a running flat, put a sell, target this one. So we're looking for a sell in this level, a stop above here, and a target to this level. Now, I'm not putting the target there because remember, we manage the trades and we have rules of how we manage the trades. So if it comes here, perfect. If it goes through that bottom, that is even much better. If it goes up, we don't have a buy setup. If it goes sideways, we get a buy setup. See, those are the three things the chart can do. It can go up now, it can come down, or it can go sideways. If it goes sideways, we will get a buy. If it goes up, we wait for the buy setup. If it drops, we're likely going to get the trade. The higher probabilities we're going to get the trade. But if it just drop here and stop and start to consolidate, we'll show you how we manage the trade. So this changed to sell. Euro Swiss. Same here. But this one, we're not waiting for a running flat because we have a flat here already. We had a small running flat here already. This one, we're waiting for more of a correction. So if this dropped, we'll probably have to let it go. This is a very, very good sell setup, by the way. The bigger structure is amazing, right? See, we had a deep pullback. So it's either going to do two things right now. See this, when you had a big move like that, they come back down, either as a correction. So I could see this coming back down either as a correction or as a new impulse downwards. I'll probably wait for some more correction here before we sell. So since this doesn't have a running flat, we'll wait on more corrections. EuroCAD, this is a much better one. We had a good sell there. This is already a running flat in the higher time frame. See, we've got one, we've got 1, 2, 3, and one back at the top. So we're looking at this as a big running flat. I think this is a perfect one. Take this off. This will just confuse the hell out of all of you. Take that out. And this was our first sell. We're waiting for another sell here. Do we have a running flat possibility here? No, we don't. See, this is not a running flat. We're not looking at this. This was a flat of its own. We made a new low. It means we will have to make a flat here. Go back there, make a flat, and then get the trade. I'm in the 15 minutes. All of that could happen today. So this afternoon in the New York session, this could be a trade. Or tomorrow morning, it's a trade. So if you guys want to join us, you will see how we do that. So we're still waiting for a flag to complete here. Europong, let me just look at the Europong. Europong, we have a sell setup. So we can go with the sell setup here now. We have a flat. We'll make an assumption for a running or expanding flat. What is the trade? Oh, this is a dangerous one. We broke the top, so we were assuming that this would make a bigger flat here. I wouldn't go with this trade. That's not, because this could just do this and go back up. We could be making a more complex pattern here, or we'll break the top and then turn. I don't think this is going to drop because we don't have anything for this. It could drop, but we don't have anything for that. And that is the problem. Unless we get something to put this with, we'll have to be very cautious. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to wait for this to drop. It is drop. It will drop to break this low most likely. Or it will just drop and break this low and go back up. If that happened, we're in a big, long, drawn out sideways pattern here. Come here, go there, and then come back. Or maybe total upside from there, we'll see. So this sell we're not taking because it's too risky. It's not going to give us a good risk to reward trade. Let it drop if it has to drop, and then we'll come back to it. Let's go. We have Pound Oz for a sell. It's coming up. That's what we want. We want it to come back to this level. Want it to come back there, and then you look for a sell setup. We don't have anything. We're not putting an entry here because if it keeps doing this as a channel or something, that I will tag you and pull you back to the top. So how do you trade patterns like this? Well, you wait for it to break out. Either we get a sell from the top here, we get a flag here and we take that flag, or you let it break below, make a flag, and then sell it. Don't take it from the bottom, because if they continue to do this, they'll tag you at the bottom and pull you up, right? Now, I think we have a complete flat. I'm looking at it this way, right? 1, 2, 3. So that's a complete flat of its own, and this is going to drop. But and this is a complete correction of its own. But if for whatever reason we are making a channel or a bigger flat here, then this would probably just drop here and go back up without any flag. And in that case, that's okay. So if we don't get a flag here, we're not taking that trade. Just to be sure, what if it does this and then go back up like this and then drop? right? You don't want to get tagged in that trade. And that is why you have to understand the bigger patterns as well. Where are you in the bigger patterns? Is this dropping right now? What's the bigger structure in this? Well, it can go down some more, but not a lot more because we are still doing this. See, we have a sharp one here, we have a sharp one here, we have a sharp one there, and then we kind of start to do this. Right, so it depends on how you count these, and you can vary the count, but at some point we have to get one up there and then come down. Right, so it might be a long, drawn out running flat eventually, but it's not showing you that there's huge momentum to the downside. So I still think there's a possibility we're going to get that one up because I don't see this as complete. I don't see where we completed this one. So one more up will probably complete it and then drop. And we're likely going to go down, right? So this one, we wanted it like that and we got it like this instead. See? So let's wait and see. Take that out. Come back here. Come back. We looked at the Aussie Swiss. We had a sell set up, and this is an old one. Don't worry about that. We have a sell set up. We wanted it to break that top. This is the 4-hour daily, right? We wanted to break this top. So we have a sell set up on the 1 hour. Let's go that. Break the top, which is what it did. Break that top, then turn and give us a trade setup. So we have 1, 2, 3. This is a good sell setup here. You're looking for to at least break this low. Maybe come back to this level and then see if it goes back up or if it breaks through. Remember, we broke the top on the daily. So there's a high probability that this could drop through the bottom. Not necessarily that it will, but it could. Because the most corrective part of this one is this here. So we're looking at this as all the correction. That's your impulse up. That's your correction. This is your impulse up. So this should drop through the bottom. Let's see if that happens. It could be more complex than that. So this is a sell setup. Let's see in the 15 if we have the trade. Not as yet. So the 15 is doing what we want it to do, which is you're getting some kind of a pullback here. You're going here. It needs to go back up. Go back up, come back down. Go back up, and then we'll get a setup to sell. So we don't have a setup to sell as yet, because I think this is an incomplete pattern. And if you put an entry on, you'll be tagged, you'll drag you up, you'll probably close the trade out of fair, and then you'll watch it drop, most likely. So we're waiting in that. CAD Swiss, we have a sell setup. We're tagged in that trade already. So those of you who joined me, like in the very start before we started, we were tagged in that trade. And remember, I explained to you, there's no reason to panic. We're probably making a flat here. And I think we did make a flat there. Here's the problem. We have 1, 2, 3. And for my traders, you know what happened, right? Why the hell are we making a flat instead of a flat? Close the trade, right? By rule, you should close that trade because it tagged you here, it pull you back up, drag you, tag the low again, and it's pulling back. It's not going. That's not a trade because you have 1, 2, 3 inside here. You have this, and this is making 1, 2, 3 inside of this. Not the trade we are looking for. So close that trade for break even. You still have the chance to close it for break even. We'll take that off, take this off, and wait for a flag. So 2 things are going to happen right now. This thing is going to go right back up here, making another big consolidation here. Turn out to be a much bigger flag. That's one option. Something like this again up there. Or it comes below here, make a flag under that low, and then we sell it. Because what we have here is a big running flat inside of a correction. By rule, when you get that, you're making a bigger correction. See? So you learned something on how we manage our trades. Although the trade was valid this morning, it was a very good trade from here. We didn't see it turning into running flat. Let me just show you where we took the trade. So we took the trade here this morning under this low. We were at the top here. So we thought this 1, 2, 3 would be enough. It actually came here, go back up, came here, go back up. That changes the pattern to running flat. So now you have 1, 2, 3. This could still go a little lower. But I'm not betting on it go a little lower because we don't need a big flat like that in there. By rule, that's a high risk trade. So we take it off. What would be the sell setup? What if it still drops? Well, let it prove the dropping. Let it come here, make a flag under here, and then this afternoon we'll sell it. Otherwise to that, you're not taking the trade because the chances of it going back up, pretty much like this one. We took that trade, we closed it here. Right, we entered there, we closed it there because when you see this and it's not dropping, the probability is it goes back up. So this could go back up again. We'll get something like this. We'll sell it from the top. If that turned out to be a channel like that, and that would be a channel, we'll be selling it from every top of the channel we will sell. Because the bigger picture is it could go up more. We're assuming that it could go up some more to this level. It doesn't have to get that much. but it could go that much, which means we will sell. Every time it comes to the low, we will buy within this range. If it keeps doing the range like that, the range is big enough to buy and sell inside. I think the range is over 100 pips. 109 pips. So within a range of 109 pips, you can buy from the bottom, sell from the top once you get the setup. And that's what we're waiting here for, right? But we must have stop losses. Stop loss is above the top of the impulse, under the bottom of the impulse if you're buying upwards. Hope that makes sense. Right, so you put it in the 1 hour, it has to be above this stop. You don't want it to go. As a matter of fact, we put the stop loss a little different, but generally you put the stop loss there above the top of the impulse. So that was a question somebody asked. Let's go. S&P 500. I think we have a very good flag to sell. Here's the danger in this for those of you who don't know, is that it can become a running flat. So now that we've gone up, we can put a sell. It can come here and it can go right back up and then drop. We're expecting this to go lower. Let me show you the bigger picture so you would understand why we think this is going to go lower. We're in this structure. See, you kind of come down, you make a flat here, you drop, right? Now, I'm not going to put this to be part of that flat. I think this is the correction of its own, and we are dropping. We're going to break this low. And then from here, we would either go back up or we'll continue to do the same thing and drop. See, pretty simple. It's not that complex. So right now we're expecting it to come here. Now, can it make a bigger correction like that? At any point, yes, it can. So we go to the lower time frame and we see where the bigger corrections could possibly be. I think right now you're seeing all our sell setups, right? This was a sell. Here was a sell under that low. There was a sell here. There was a sell here. And we didn't sell this here because this was too sharp. So where we're going to sell it is here. But you have to be aware, I'll put this as an aggressive sell. I'll change it into an aggressive sell. From waiting to sell to an aggressive sell. I think we have enough here. Let me look at it on the 15. Yeah, we can make an argument. It's not, yeah, we have this already. So we can make an argument for this. We can make an argument for this one, right? We might still have to come back here and still go back up. We could still come back here and still go back up. So then we'll make an argument for this one. And then we can still go back up one more. When it breaks this top, we'll put the entry here. We'll move that entry up. Until that top is broken again, we're not going to move the entry higher because there's still possible that it's incomplete. So I see the pattern is incomplete. You can look at this way. Right? So we've got 1, 2, 3 here. This is the flat in the middle. This is up. This is up. This is down. This is down. I expect this to happen. So when that happens, we'll put the stop here or we'll try to sell it from the top there going down. For now, we put it here. So if I'm wrong about that and this drops to the bottom, I want to be in that trade. So we're putting the sell on. I don't think it will tag us. And this will most likely go in the New York session. Most times they move in the New York session. I'm not even going to put this. I'll put this more as a range here. Right? I'll put this as a range here. And we're putting the sell under the low. If I'm wrong and this is the top, let it drop. If we get a flag before that, we'll sell it. So we're looking for a sell here. We're looking for a sell here. Same, we'll put an aggressive sell here too. And the same thing, they can all become running flats because of this sharp move up there. Right? That move it has a 3-wave structure, but it's absolutely sharp. So this one is complete. Nope, I don't think this is complete. This has the same structure. This one didn't even break the top. So this one should come here and go back up like this. See this? Go back up like that. And then drop. So you're putting this entry here, but you're going to be cautious. Don't let it tag you and pull you back. But if it tag you and pull back, no problem. Keep your stop above the stop. In this case, for my traders, you might even want to double your risk. It's not that big. You don't have to double your risk. The trade, the downwards on the trade is huge. Today's bank holiday. Well, maybe they don't move. They stay in the consolidation and don't worry with it then. So come New York session, we'll probably take it off and wait. Or you can leave it. So when the trade opens tomorrow morning, you get a trade if you're going to be there to trade tomorrow morning. And any session open. So, but that's the trade. It will probably stay here consolidating more, and then we'll get it tomorrow. When the New York session starts, it's going to stop. There will be nothing, and tomorrow we look for the sell. But it's a sell setup. So for now, we put it as an aggressive sell. What if before New York they all go? Put all three as aggressive sell. They all three of them have the same setup. See? So we'll put them as aggressive sell. Let's see if this is completed. I don't think this one is completed either. this could be completed. You could make an argument for that depending on how you look at the pattern, but I don't think so. Again, I'm looking at this as the flat. So this is 1, 2, 3. So it has to come down back and so go back up, and then we'll put the entry here for the sell. See, pretty simple. So let's see how this behaves. We don't have a buy setup here. And let's go DAX. You can go with your sell. The sell, you can put the sell on. We didn't have that one this morning. Now we have it, so you can put a sell here. But it's a little risky in that all they have to do, well, they broke the low already. They don't have to go really far, right? We don't know how far this is going to drop. You'll just manage it. What's the bigger picture? Like, where is the bigger downside? The bigger downside is breaking this low. I'll put it so you see. The bigger downside is breaking that low. So once that low is broken, once it comes here, you have to be careful because it is going to do that. Right? Remember, we had this up. We thought it's going to make this one. So you made 1, 2, 3. It came back up here and you got a flat in the middle. So I don't think that is the running flat. If that's the running flat, good for you. This is going to drop much more. If it is not the running flat, it's going to come here and go back up. But that's a good trade. You can still take the trade. And let's see how low it goes. So we're assuming this is a running flat. You can put an entry here for this trade. You can put a stop above here. You're not going to let it come back here. We will never let that stop get there. We'll close the trade way before and let it drop through the bottom here and see where that goes. I like the trade. It's actually a very good trade. And that is for the trades that we looked at this morning. So now, those are the trades. You see how we change them. You see how we manage them. You see what we do with them, right? Basically, that's what we do 5 times a day. So let's come back here now. My traders could post what trade setups you guys want me to look at, which one you think is ready. Anything that we were looking at this morning that has a setup, because in the morning we do the entire chart. We do all the charts. So we don't have to do it every time. We just come back and see which one has a setup. I think the CAD yen is making a setup. Let's see if we have that one in the CAD yen, if it's ready. Yeah, CAD yen is making a setup for a sell here. Under 15, you can see that we're kind of consolidating here. Not ready. Because we've got this weird flat kind of path thing here, and this is consolidating like this. Right? This should have dropped and break the low. It's doing this, let it come back here, go back there, and then we'll consider the sell. Right? So it's way too early. But it's forming, right? I don't think this will drop. If this was going to drop, it will drop already. Because we kind of have a flat here already. You can see this one has a small flat in here. I think if this was going to drop, it should drop already. It's a little too risky at that point, but it did break the top, so we'll keep our eyes on it. What are the trade setups you guys looking at? Anyone? Swiss yen is a big flat, so we wouldn't take that. It has to go break the top. And nothing else that I see right now. New Zealand is forming, is giving us a flag, but I don't know if we want to take that trade. It's becoming a bigger one here. See the small one, now you get a bigger one here. Euro New Zealand for buy setup. Okay, we'll take it. Let me see this. This one is forming here, right? See, it has to come and break this low. So let's see if we can get this trade. Yeah, you can go with an argument. You have 1, you have 2, you have 3. Put it under the last impulse. Let's see how far that goes. Because now you have it. Remember this morning we wanted this to go back up. It went up back. So you have a trade. Take it to break this low. We're aiming for the break of this low. Keep a stop above here. Not just above this one, but keep a stop above this one. Use the last impulse now. And let's see if we get this. Because if they tag you and decide to go back up, we'll look for an exit. I don't know how it's going to come down. It could come down really slow. Especially if the New York market is not going to work. Euro yen sell. And yeah, we already got the sell in the euro yen. The sell, it's still a sell. It's still valid until it consolidates here. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep this until it consolidates here. If it consolidates here, then we'll change it. For now, we'll probably look at it as an expanding flat. Because this still looks sharp. It hasn't changed the structure. So if it's going to be upside, if it is going to go up more, we don't have a buy until we get a flag. Right? So we'll wait for the flag. Otherwise, it goes with others. Aussie Swiss. Aussie Swiss, let's see the Aussie Swiss. We're still waiting for a flag. I don't think it's completed. It's a good one, but I don't think it's completed because we have this impulse and this one, and we are consolidating in this range. So I think this would have to go back up. Even if you go with this as a contract, as a flat here, if it comes here, this has to go back up before we get in the trade, because it will tag you at the bottom here and drag you back to the top there. So let it come there. If we get a flag under that, we'll take it. But this is the flag to go. Let it pull back and then you take the trade. If you want to take it now, you have to keep a stop here. So if it comes here, you wouldn't be out of the trade and then you wait for this drop. So that's the option. But if it does that and you take the trader, you can put the stop here because this would be the one that goes. Just double the risk and put it to the top there. And we'll close it way before it goes back up. So I'm only expecting this to do like a 1, a 2, and a 3 back to this level. And then from here, either we break through, we go back up, right? The bigger structure is downside. The bigger 4-hour structure is downside. You can see that very clearly. This would eventually drop to the bottom here. So the question is if we get a good setup here for this to drop now, or if it's going to go back up and then drop. I think it could drop now because on the bigger picture, we completed the pattern. See, all of this is the correction. You have one, actually this one was the correction here. So you have 1, 2, 3, you have 1, 2, 3. I don't think they're gonna, and we had one here coming down. So and we went back, right? So we can look at this as a correction there. I don't think this is going to happen bigger. I think we were just gonna drop because there's a small one in there. See, it came down and it went back up. You came down, you went back up. So I think that one could be completed. If it's not, then we're gonna drop here and then go back up. Right, but I think it's completed. I really think this whole structure is completed because we broke the top. We wanted it to break the top and then start the drop. So this is still a trade. We take that trade and then we see if it breaks out or if it goes back up. Go back to the 1 hour and go back to the 15. If we take the trade under the low, you have to be aware that if you take the trade under the low, you have to put your stop here. So that would mean increasing the risk on the trade itself. Because I don't think it's completed. Probabilities they'll tag you here and pull you back like that for a running flat. And then drop. If you're willing to do that, then the trade is valid right now. We're getting a running flat on the euro, on the pound New Zealand as well. Pound New Zealand is making a running flat already. I think we put that trade on already. Let's see, pound New Zealand. See, we wanted this morning, we were here. I said, let it come back there. And then we look for this trade. So you can put it here. And now we're getting that flat. This was the analysis this morning. So this morning, when we came in the trade, it was somewhere here. And we decided we're not going to sell it, let it go back up. And then we would look for this trade down. After which we're going to expect it to go back up. So one part we're correct about already. That is the going back up. Let's see what happens. I still think it's going to come back down. We're looking for this structure, basically. We're expecting this to be a running flat. Come here and then go back up there. Make this one. So if you want this trade, it's an aggressive trade. If not, you wait for this to happen, and go for that trade, which would take a while. So can we take this trade? Is there a risk to reward good in this trade? And here is how we can do that. We don't take it from the low. Because the low would give you, this would be your entry, this would be your stop, and we don't know how far this is going to go. It doesn't necessarily have to break the low. It could stop short here and go back. So what we'll do is we wait for this to turn here. Wait for it to turn, give us a flag here. We'll take this trade, we'll put a stop here, and we'll go for this trade. That will give us a risk to reward. So we'll wait for that later. Let it form. Don't chase it. And this one, the reason we didn't buy that up, because they're running flat. You don't know where it stopped. Running flat could stop anywhere. It could come here, it could have stopped here and go down. So you wouldn't have got a risk to reward. It will still be a running flat. So now you wait for it to make the top, turn, give you the flag, and then we sell. Okay, what else? Any other trade setups? I don't want to go too long. We're already 53 minutes in. Any questions? Let's take questions. So I'll take a couple of questions and then I'll stop the recording. And then I'll see all of you in New York session. Right? Joining New York session is, even though the market is closed, we can make it not necessarily a trading session. You can take Q&A, you can ask questions. Let's go. Any questions, anyone? Anything you have, and anything you can ask questions. Just type your questions really quick. Let's go. Well, it seems you guys have been following me so long. So if you don't have any questions, we're going to go there. We're going to close the room and see all of you in New York session. Thank you for coming. Please share the link. Let more people come. We'll still do New York session. We can make it an educational session and then go from there, right? So share the link. Come, you might get some educational stuff. Thank you very much. Bye. See all of you this afternoon.